Hi, I'm Dr. Keith Graham from the School of Teacher Education at National Taiwan Normal University. Welcome to my office hours. In last week's video, I discussed my thoughts on using English immersion as the model of bilingual education in Taiwanese public schools. If you haven't seen the video, the link is at the top right corner of this video now. Today's question is related to this idea, but adds a contextual factor: high English proficiency among students. The teacher asks, if I have a class of students whose English proficiency is high, can I use English only to teach them? Before answering that question, I want to make sure we are all on the same page. Today, I am talking about using all English in primary or secondary level content classes, such as health, geography, science, etc. Please don't misunderstand. This video is not about English language classes or the teaching English in English policy. My recommendation for English language classes would be much different than what I will say today. So to answer today's question, I generally do not advise using English only in public school content classes in Taiwan, even if the students' proficiency levels are high. At the end of this video, I will explain some exceptions I have to this recommendation. But let's first discuss why I do not think English only is a good idea in content classes. In the real world, we can roughly separate the way bilinguals use languages into three categories. In some places, bilinguals use one language exclusively. Let's call this language A. And in other places, they use the other language, which we'll call language B. And in some situations, they actually use both language A and language B together. In bilingual education, we hope to develop bilinguals to be able to leverage all three of these language configurations whenever necessary. In other words, we want our students to be able to communicate about the subject in language A exclusively, communicate in language B exclusively, and to use languages A and B together for a subject task. Just because someone can communicate about something in language A does not guarantee that they can do the same in language B, or vice versa. If you can communicate something in language B, it doesn't necessarily mean you can communicate that in language A. We often assume that if a language is our mother tongue, we will be able to communicate about any topic using that language. But this actually isn't true if you learn the subject in another language. A good example of this is Taiwanese who study their master's degrees abroad. Often they return to Taiwan only being able to explain technical things in their field in English, at least for a certain initial time period. Why is this? Because they never learned these things in Mandarin Chinese. They only learned ways of communicating their subject in English during their master's degree. This is the danger of taking a monolingual approach to bilingual education. Even if the students know English very well, they still need to learn the Mandarin Chinese of the subject for their futures if they intend to live and work in Taiwan. While content teachers may not realize it, they have actually always been language teachers, teaching the language of their subject. Bilingual education shouldn't take that away. It should only add to it. Therefore, I believe it is critical that students are taught and learn in both languages, never just English. Now, at the beginning of this video, I said that there was an exception. My opinion is that English only should never be used in the compulsory curriculum of public schools. However, my advice here would change if we were talking about non-compulsory classes, like school electives or extracurricular courses. In those types of courses, I think using English only could be very helpful for building students' bilingualism, especially if the course topics are aligned with those in the compulsory curriculum, and if the course is designed for their language level. In the private school I taught in many years ago, the school's bilingual model is what we call a strict separation model. Students would take subjects such as math and science with a teacher using English only during certain periods of the week. But they also took those same courses with another teacher who used Mandarin Chinese exclusively. So these students were able to develop content knowledge and language skills in both languages, but at different times. I have seen how bilingual education models, like the strict separation one, can be effective. But unfortunately, they are somewhat unrealistic for Taiwan's public schools. So the best we can do is to try to emulate that model within a single classroom or between a compulsory class and an elective class. To do that, bilingual teachers must be conscious of when and how they use both languages for teaching and learning in their subject. If you are doing bilingual education, it should never only be Mandarin Chinese, and it should never only be English. Thank you for attending my office hours. If you have a question that you'd like me to answer on this channel, send me an email at kmgraham@ntnu.edu.tw. I'll see you next time.